Welcome. How's everybody doing today? So it is a very exciting time because we have our annual event that's happening tomorrow. It's going to be amazing. Yes, a lot of you guys that are graduates, you will be coming next year. Well, we're going to do it in September again because it's so warm here. Everybody's coming at 1 o'clock. We have people flying in. And we have another guest that already flew in, and he's here now, and he's A-list mentor. Some of you guys may know him. He's here in this room, yes. Okay, come on over, and let me introduce you. Goran Mervik, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
Yes, A-list mentor, almost one of the founding mentors, guys. This is pretty exciting. And so Goran, I met 10 years ago. When he started, he was just like, as you will see from his personality when he starts to speak, at some point. But he's just got a very charismatic, gregarious personality. He's also a very hardworking person. He's also somebody that's always thinking about how can I add value? What do these people need? What should I be doing now? The brain's always working. He's extremely resourceful. I remember when he was starting as a production assistant, he was like, just initially scared, right? Like all of us. Yeah.
Scared to death.
Scared to death. For me, I'm like, I can barely remember being scared to death, but I know that I was too. But I think most of it is like, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to do the wrong thing. I don't want to be in the way. I don't want to mess up. That would be just the worst thing. Because I really want this, and all these people are so busy and it's so so many people. Mm-hmm. And then from there, he started getting hired a lot. People are passing his name around. And they would be calling him and he's like, I'm going to negotiate. He's like, my rate's higher. Like right off the bat, he's just like, my rate, what was it, $250?
Yeah. But the rate was a 125, 150.
Oh, yeah. So they were offering him 125 or 150. He's like, my rate is $250 and I will do the work of 2 production assistants. And they were like, okay. Like they went for it, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. So
quite
that
a few
confident.
times.
Quite a few times. So good, you guys. It's just like, it's like such confidence. I love it. And he got a camera and start working as a camera PA and then a second AC and then a first AC and then started camera operating and was working on independent projects at the same time. And one of these projects that he worked on, he was DPing on, and it won for Best Short at Cannes. So he flew to Cannes and, they got the award and that's amazing. So I'm very much blown away by Goran. What Goran does is he is always looking at, you remember what I talked about last week? I was talking about how most people see problems and then they're like, I got to solve and try to fix this problem. And they get caught in the problem and just looking at it from the problem. And I say that what I always do is I'm jumping over the problem to the solution. You were wondering what I was going to say, weren't you? Yeah, and that's what he does. He's always doing that. And he always thinks he can. I can figure this out, always. So he's taken, so Goran's very entrepreneurial, and this is one of my biggest gifts that I think that he has to give you guys, is he looks at film, opportunity, coaching, NLP, real estate, creating under kind of one big umbrella. And he was working in the film industry, working camera, doing all these things. And he's like, okay, I want to take all this money that I've made and invest in real estate. So then he got into real estate and did some things there and learned a ton there. And then he got into coaching, and now he's back into camera again. And he's going to be, and you can tell him, building his own production company that's going to be renting equipment and also bringing in production. So I think that it's so great because it's what I did too. And so I got into film, and I got jobs coming in, and then I'm like, I want to do more than this. And I know all of you guys have got a lot of ambitions in addition to it. And that's what he was doing. So I'm like, I started a laser hair removal company. Then I sold it. That didn't work out. Yeah.
I love that.
It was a really good learning experience. You're going to get a lot of good learning experiences. A lot of things that we try, that's what's so great about the film industry. A lot of things that we try out there in the business world, it takes a while to really make money doing any kind of business. The great thing about the film industry is once you get in and start getting people knowing you, they keep calling you, and that work is there, and that work won't stop. It will keep coming in because productions will not stop. So once you get in, you're in, and you just keep building it, and that's awesome. I mean, a lot of us just think that it's so hard to get in, and it keeps us from getting in. And what I'm always telling you guys is like, no, you can get in. You just need to learn these skills, build them up. Meet the people, build up your resume, have a great attitude, charge money, know what you're worth. Mm-hmm. You can make so much money in real estate. I mean, in the film industry, because what I realized is I was like, okay, I want to start another business in addition to film, and that's where I'm going to make all my money. And what I realized is that the film industry will make all the money, and then you take that money in the film industry and you can invest it in other places and pay other people to do what they're good at instead of you trying to learn it from the ground up. That was a big one, you guys.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Because it takes so much, there's only so much of you. And so we have to be smart about this. So that's what we ended up doing is after actually making the mistake of kind of pulling away from the film industry and going out and working in real estate and making money, but the film business, you had to turn down jobs, so that thing was pumping out. And then we had to turn it down because we're investing in Florida and houses and learning real estate, and we thought that was a great thing. But then we realized, hey, we don't really want to live at Home Depot. See, this is the things that you realize as you're doing stuff out there. You're like, hey, Home Depot, replacing doorknobs. I'd rather be on a film set and just pay somebody to do that. So you go through these learning times, and then you come back to it. And that's my main message here with Goran is now he's back to it and building up again after having gone out and done some of these other experiences just like I did. Okay, now tell us your mistakes now.
I took the job and I did a couple of different roles, which is I was second AC and I was a loader, meaning I will take the car that was recorded and then I will bring into the camera and into the laptop. I'll make sure that data is transferred because it's one of the most important roles.
Oh my gosh, I know what story you're gonna tell. Oh my gosh.
This is the worst thing that happened to me, but there's another one and it's a killer that you didn't even know it's a killer. And I'll talk about this if I forget. Just remind me of that.
Oh,
yeah? Okay.
I know that one too.
So I accepted the job as a second AC and loading guy. However, by the way, this whole thing, and I'm going to be transparent. My feeling was, it wasn't really my mistake, but I took the job for loading as a loader. So with that, I hold the whole responsibilities. What ended up happening, we finished the job, we went home. I actually become really good with the producer. We ended up going for dinner. The things were like really, really going off. And he calls me the next day. He's like, hey G, very nice, polite. Just wondering, where is this card? I'm like, ooh, I'm getting, it doesn't feel good right now. What's going on? He's like, well, we're missing the whole segment of the interviews. And I'm like, are you sure? Did you check? Like, yeah, we checked. Nothing. I'm like, okay, let me talk to the first AC. He had no clue what was going on. Basically, the card was vanished. Until this day, we don't know what happened to it. They look crazy to the client because we had this whole recording of 7-10 people that was just like vanished. I was totally like, the earth open and swallow me right now. But I feel the guy, he was... Which is like, it's not like I'm trying to put it out there, but like, I feel he was high. And I think he accidentally re-recorded it. And then as I was giving around, because I know everything that he was giving me, I was putting it back. But anyway, that's besides the point. I didn't say this to no one. I'm telling you that, guys.
And this kind of thing can happen where it's not your fault and you take the fall. You take the blame
Oh, yeah.
because you cannot point fingers. You have to take responsibility.
Yeah, I'm just sharing with you guys my feeling of it,
Yeah.
but I never
It's a good
mentioned to
lesson.
him. I look like ass to the production company. They never hire me again. Again, thank God there's so many production companies, and they're the first one who hired me. Actually, because of them, I became who I became into the film industry. That's a crazy thing.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
They gave me so much jobs, so I messed it up big time, and that was a big for them. So they're like, we're never gonna hire this guy again. I took the full blame, guys. I did not even mention what I just told you. I said it was my responsibilities. However, from today's the lesson, it's always a lesson. I love that. So what's the lesson, guys, we learned from all the mistakes? It's not about mistakes, it's the lessons that you learn. And the lesson was, if you're ever gonna do a job again like this, and if you're going to be a loader, you're a loader. I was loading, I was doing the camera, I was moving things. The things were on the floor. People were coming in, just the regular workers were coming in. I don't know if somebody came and stole the card. I could drop it. It could be so many different ways. But I've learned, if you're going to do this job, you're going to do it right. And then I contacted the next thing I did. Thank you, Janet, for coaching. Was, okay, so what will the next thing be? I met a great loader that was his profession, and I met with him one-on-one, and he gave me the whole spiel on, this is what you do, this is how you protect yourself, this is how you can have a data,
This happened
is the
after.
steps after, of course.
Okay, so that's part of the training, is when you take some of these jobs. That's why production assistant is so important, because while you're doing that job, you're meeting people and you're putting them on your magic list. And they might be people that are not related necessarily to the job that you want to do, but they have information that they can help you. Like an editor. Is that good to have an editor in your back pocket, if you are a DP or even an AC or a special effects or even, like an actor, right? Yeah, it's good to have these people, because then you can reach out to them, text them, hey, I've got this shoot, what do you think? And they can help you. You don't want to take these jobs. You do want to take the jobs. Okay. I like I said, I always push you, take the job, but reach out to somebody that really knows their shit before you actually do the job, to find out, what should I be focusing on? What can fuck me up? What has happened to you that I need to know about? We are such people pleasers. We are such overachievers that we have such big hearts, and that's what happened to you.
Yeah.
Is you're just like, oh, I just want to show them I work so well, and I care so much, and try to do the world, and then you didn't really realize, no, this is your fucking job, getting that media into the computer and making sure everything is labeled, cleared off, back in, and they don't know. They just expect that you know your job. They expect that you've done it many times if you accept the job, right?
Yeah.
They don't, and this is a beautiful thing about the film industry too, everybody, is they're not going to look and see how many times you've done the job. They're just going to be like, oh, somebody referred you, are you available? And that's it. So they're gonna, and then on the job, if people start getting grumpy with you, that's because they're starting to see that you should know some stuff.
Yep, and I feel the medicine for that, guys. It's not going to work 100%, but this is another tool in our toolbox. What I've learned through my experiences, instead of me pretending I know, and I go on the set and they see I'm so green, and they're going to be so much grumpy. They can still be grumpy, but if I come to Janet and say, oh my God, Janet, I'm so excited to work with you. I'm a little green about sound.
Yes.
I'm kind of green. So if I don't know something, please don't think I'm not in. She's going to be like, not only that, she's going to be like, gee, this is how you do this. They're going to start teaching you guys. However, in smaller production, you kind of will eventually learn. You do have to wear a few hats, but the goal is to focus in one path and really go for it. But it's good to know different stuff. That definitely going to help. So I did get hired over and over time. My last job that I was paid $1,500 was because I had that skill set. Because my friend was like, listen,
$1,500 a day.
$1,500. Yep. It was for Amazon. Actually, the production called me, and I remember that my rate was, by the way, at the time, guys, $450. I said, I'm going to shoot to the stars, guys. What's the worst can happen? They're going to say, no, you're crazy. Okay, let's negotiate.
So they checked your availability for an Amazon shoot, and were you referred to that
Yes,
shoot?
it was through a friend of mine.
Okay.
And he told me, like, usually...
A friend of yours that you've worked with, a film
Correct.
professional.
Yes, the field professional who always hires me.
Was he a DP or what position?
He's a DP / producer.
Okay, all right.
Yep. lovely individual. He was the one always giving me. I would tell him I want to do this next, and he's the first one giving me that opportunity. So he was the first one giving me opportunity
He's your
to be
biggest
an AC.
fan.
Yeah, he was really like, he loved the energy, and he was just like, you'll find those guys, cheerleaders, like my AC guy. You know, he was teaching me how to transition the AC. Then the girl, she was giving me all the jobs. You don't need that many guys.
That's
You don't
another
need
good
that
point.
many. You need like a 2-3 really big connections that people are like, you know what, he's a hustler. Because if I see another A-listers, in a sense of like attitude A-listers, or even A-lister person there, and you are there and you're hungry, oh hell yeah. And you know, I've done that. If I see people are like into that stuff, like if you come to me and you're like, oh, I want to do it, and I'm like, okay, it's not, you're not having the A factor. You know, you have to have it. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. But then I recognize me in them. I'm like, oh hell yeah, I'm all in. I'll help you out. So that's how it really works. So yeah. I remember when I started, just to kind of reflect back, I mean, I was so scared, guys. I didn't, okay. I think I told you this, Janet. For 4 months, she was doing this promotional thing, like a free 10-day class. Like, who does that? Like, free 10 days, she was like giving
Me.
or something.
You're
Yeah.
talking about me.
Yeah, Janet was giving. It took me 5 months to sign up for that, for freebie. Talking about like not believing in yourself and being down and feeling certain way, and then getting into it. Like a moment I get into it and I saw her face to face, I'm like, this is it. I was $60,000 in debt when I joined the class, 60K, depressed out of my mind, reached 30. Oh my gosh, it's 7 years ago. We met 7 years ago, actually,
Okay.
because
Okay.
I was about 30. I was hitting my 30, guys. I'm like, hell no, what are you doing with your life? And that's when I stumbled across you, I finally got the courage to take a free class. I loved it. I went full in. And the biggest learning for me, guys, is when I couldn't figure it out, I was going through the module so fast just because I thought I have to go to the next module.
Okay, so he went from pre-class to...
Yes.
But
yes.
you did A-list.
Yeah. I
Okay.
did A-list, of course.
Yeah.
Then I
just want them to
bought
know.
the class. Yes. Then when I went into the class, I started going through the modules fast. You know, there's a lot of information, and you're just like, okay, the more I read, the more I know. And then at one point, my brain was a mash. I'm like, this makes zero sense. So I said, you know what? It feels almost the opposite, going all the way back to the module 1. But guess what? I'm gonna do what it feels so much wrong, because I feel I already
He was
passed.
rushing through the module. He's like trying to like just watching. This is so funny, guys. We're so scared, but then at the same time, we're like, just give me the information and rush through it. And then I want these jobs, but I'm not ready. But I don't know what it is, but we all do this. I
Yep.
think here's actually, you want to know what it is? It's the emotional triad. It's like we are all of our brains. This is what it is. We want to go towards pleasure, so we want the job. We want to go away from pain, and pain is in the learning and this.
Wow.
And then we also want it to be easy. That's the emotional triad: pain, pleasure, and ease. That's what all our brains want, and that's why we do this. I do the same thing. You did the same thing. So he's just trying to go through it at the same time he wants the jobs, and he's like, okay, but I need to now
I was lost.
learn the basics
Yep.
and really see what is behind what is she's teaching. So he'd start it all over again.
Yes, and the real coaching that I've gained from is actually what I did the opposite. I used to spend 30 minutes while I'm washing dishes, vacuuming. Guys, familiar? Even texting my friends while I'm listening to Janet. By the end of it, I'm like, I didn't even put any efforts, to be honest, but I did, right? Hashtag.
I did it.
I did it. I did my 30 minutes. What did I learn? It doesn't matter. I did 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? Let's go back. How about I invest 5 minutes now? Because that's my span. That was my attention span. But that's it. 5 minutes, G. Don't touch the phone. This is it. Just listen to Janet. And just observe what she's saying and write it down. And then what start doing, 5 minutes become 10, 10 become 15. You build up your muscles to the 15 to 20 to 30. So what I end up doing, instead of spending 2 hours watching 7 different clips, I spend 2 hours watching 5-minute clips.
I remember this.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh my gosh,
And
I have to
watch it over and over
then I
and
write
over
it
again.
and I scratch it. I have to bring you guys my book that I'm reading now. I'm going back to reading, and I'm like, 10 minutes, it's okay for me today. I'm just going to do 10 minutes because I just have to exercise my muscles. I have to go back in. I'm going to go back in easy. and that's it. 10 minutes a day I read, and I'm not rushing to read as many pages in 10 minutes. There's sometimes I read one page and I look in, and the original thought, what the heck, G? One page? I'm like, no, there's great information. You read it, you read it again, then you went up there and you wrote it. I use now my book as actually as a notebook as well. I scramble, I cover. Who cares? It's my book, so I do whatever I want. Why does it need to be cool and
You're
nice
absorbing.
and fancy and put it back in and like
Yeah.
so that's what I'm doing. So the learning really was, don't rush through it. Come back and observe until you kind of know where you are, and you create those foundation. I call it a foundation. Then you can build up the house upon it, right? If your foundation is wobbly and you kind of know the idea, but you go rush through the process and you're like, and you're still like not there,
Yeah.
and that's when you're like, time, like, okay, let me go back to the basics.
Yeah. I've got a friend who just put stuff on the background and listen and just has it playing all the time. And he's like, I love to learn this way, but it's not the best way to learn. The best way to learn, because you don't need to have just this repeating in the background. I think the best way to learn is you have to stop multitasking, have your notebook with your pen in your hand, and absorb and back up and take the main points down.
Yeah.
And teach yourself. You have to teach yourself how to learn.
And even if it's like a guy's 5 minutes, I kid you not.
Okay.
Even if your attention span is 5 or 10 minutes, I'd rather you have that 5 and 10 minutes, stop washing the dishes, vacuuming, doing all these things, trying to, answer to the carrier who has a package while you're listening. Just be like 5 minutes a week. I don't even care. Put whatever you want. 5 minutes, it's me and Janet. And that's only going to be it. Turn off the phone, do whatever you want. And that brings me back to one of the biggest mistakes, that it's like this killer that you don't even know it's a killer, that you're going to lose a lot of jobs. And I've lost so many times, not even being told. I realized later on through people and through friends, actually, is this little monster, guys. Are you ready?
Yeah, they didn't tell him. They didn't tell him what he's doing wrong. And they will never tell you what you're doing wrong. You will just get fired, basically.
So this is it. I don't know if you guys are clicking. I think the next step is I'm at a job, getting paid $500, $500.
And he's on his phone. With his Airbnb, with good reason. In your brains, you think that it's a good reason. You're like, yeah, but I got to respond. Yeah, it's another job. Yeah, I got to, there's some downtime. I can check what's going on Instagram. And okay, I mean, we rationalize it.
And every time, guys, kid you not, it's almost like a curse. Every time you're on the phone, the big boss is right there, right in front of you, looking at you, right? Like, oh, and all they see, all day you've done is this. This is the worst enemy, guys. The worst enemy. I've lost so many jobs, I kid you not, and nobody's gonna tell you. And that's why this is such a dangerous path. I realized through friends, when I'm with a friends and I'm enjoying a dinner,
What, you do it or they do it?
I do it.
Oh.
And they're like, dude, like,
You're so rude.
thank you. I know, I was. But the learning was, because it's Airbnb, right? I do tell people, like, when I have a clients and all that, but people are still like, dude, but you're still with me. Like, come on, chillax. Sometimes I have a guest wants to check in, and crazy enough always happens around the time that I'm with people. I know, it's crazy. But what I've learned is delegate. I learned, like, okay, if you're going to be serious into this business and you have another business and you cannot sustain because you're doing this business, then delegate, meaning find a management company or somebody who can manage while you are at work. So when you're at work, guess what? You're doing your work.
Yeah.
So that's the, I think.
That's a really good lesson. I made the same mistake. I was buying real estate, and I had a headset on, and I'm here on set thinking that I'm so cool. In a way, somewhere in the back of my head, I'm like, I'm busy. I got so much going on. I can do this job, and I can also run another job. And to this day, people are like, yeah, I remember you walking around on set with your little headset on, negotiating with the banks. And they were like, think it's funny, but I'm sure I got like fired off a bunch of jobs because
Or
it's
never
like,
called.
or just like, oh, I don't know, she's not that serious about the job or whatever. People they're not even really thinking like to even put a sentence together about you. It's just like, I don't know. and
No.
just an impression that you made. So that was a mistake. So you show up, they're paying you for that day, and I know that you guys know this, but I can't. I got to remind you again. They're paying you for the day. You're there for them.
It's an
And it's
addiction.
all about, I know, and
It's
we
a
will
huge-
justify. So don't let yourself do it.
It's a huge addiction, and actually now at my new job, there's this girl, this girl. I don't know what's going on in her mind.
Tell them the job you're doing.
Yes, so I'm back in the camera right now. So I work in a rental house. I'm getting to learn all about it.
One of the biggest camera rental houses in New York City.
Yeah. And
good.
they love me. You have to go with the attitude, I don't care if you love me or not, but I'm just gonna, be cool and be approachable. The way I treat everyone is the same. So for me, if you're a lady who comes in and she cleans, I treat her the same as my boss. And I feel that's like, people eventually, sometimes people are like weird out, like, well, he's so nice. For where I'm coming from,
nice.
when we say things like, I like your hair, that's really what it means, guys. I like your hair. But in America, when you say I like your hair, people tend to think, oh, what does he want from me? I'm like, Jesus Christ. It's not always what you want. Like, that's how I grew up. So some people takes time to really understand it. It's not really malicious. It's just who I am.
I wouldn't worry about it.
But you just have to be you.
yeah.
That's the point. What I'm
Yeah.
trying to say, you just have
Yeah.
to be you. You can think about all these things.
Yeah.
So this girl, particular, like she is 24/7 on the phone. And the funny thing is, I'm so annoyed now
By her.
by her. You know.
So at the rental house, there's somebody there that is on the phone all the time, and he's like, "You should be paying attention. You should be we think we know how we do the job, and we expect other people. This is what happens on a film set
Yeah.
too. You know how you do your job, and like you're like Christina got her lines memorized, has planned, is totally focused. Came with well rested." Paying attention to what's going on set. And then you work with people that are on their phones, not paying attention, don't know their lines, whatever. And it's just, she's just like, are you kidding me? And you're just like, you instantly don't like them.
Yep. And that's a get it factor, guys. That's when you start going on the sets, you start realizing and appreciating this program so much more.